Hello there, my name is Pavor Shtelmach, and now we'll unveil the top news of recent days. Russia has transferred several units with at least 1,000 servicemen each to the Kursk region to repel an attack by the armed forces of Ukraine. This is what two high-ranking US officials said in a comment to CNN. An American official and a representative of European intelligence say that the main goal of the Kursk operation is to create strategic dilemmas for Putin, in particular to make the command think about where to send their troops. Two other sources familiar with Western intelligence say that Russia is not yet moving its better-trained units to Kursk. NATO's supreme allied commander in Europe, General Christopher Cavalli, has commented on Russia's sluggish and disjoint reaction to Ukraine's military operations in the Kursk oblast. According to Cavalli, Russia is struggling to determine who should be responsible for addressing hostilities within its borders. Additionally, Moscow faces a shortage of available military reserves to counter Ukraine's advances in Kursk. Cavalli highlights that a significant portion of Russia's ground forces are tied up in Ukraine, leaving few reserves within Russia itself. The remaining units are largely made up of conscripts who are legally barred from being deployed in Ukraine, resulting in slower mobilization. He also notes that while Russia has transferred a large number of air forces to the Kursk region, the extent and effectiveness of any additional ground force reinforcements remain unclear. The general underscores that some units from eastern Ukraine have been moved to the Kursk region, but it is now uncertain how quickly these forces can be deployed or how much priority they will be given compared to other areas of war. At the same time, the founder of the Russian PMC, Paladin, Grigory Zakrevsky, 3 days ago announced a march to Moscow with the aim to remove Putin. He called to join him. Since during all this time there was no other news from Zakrevsky, we can draw two conclusions. Either the Russians are satisfied with the fact that Russia is losing territory, or the FSB provocation was successful, and the Russian special services discovered the real dissatisfied and put them in prison against the background of the offensive in Kursk. Volodymyr Zelensky submitted to the Verkhovna Rada a package of draft laws on the ratification of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Adoption of the law will mean Ukraine's full accession to the International Criminal Court. However, Ukraine ratifies the Rome Statute with a separate statement, according to which within 7 years after the ratification law enters into force, Ukraine does not recognize the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court over its citizens for the commission of certain crimes. It is currently unclear how exactly this provision will work, given that Ukraine has already granted the ICC the right to investigate crimes committed on its territory. It should be noted that responsibility does not extend to countries that have not ratified the Rome Statute, including Russia, which is not a member of the International Criminal Court. Because of this, in order to bring the leadership of the Russian Federation to justice, Ukraine will obviously continue to work on the creation of a special tribunal. To date, 124 states have ratified the Rome Statute of the ICC. China, India, Belarus, Turkey, Kazakhstan, among others, did not sign or ratify the statute. Russia, like the United States, signed the charter but later withdrew its signature. Ukraine signed the Rome Statute back in 2000, but during all this time it has not ratified it. But at the same time, Ukraine gave the International Criminal Court the right to investigate crimes on its territory, that is, actually recognized its jurisdiction. After the full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine, the Ukrainian authorities allowed the ratification of the Rome Statute, but only after the end of the full-scale war. Deputy head of the Office of the President, Irina Mudra, said that the ratification of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court will give Ukraine more tools to bring Russian war criminals to justice. The Criminal Court has already issued 6 warrants for the arrest of Russian criminals, including Putin, the army's top brass, Shoigu, Gerasimov, and other generals. Our participation in the work of the International Criminal Court will allow us to strengthen the examination of current cases, open new ones, and ensure fair punishment for all Russian criminals. Also, the deputy head of the Office of the President added that Ukraine, as a member of the Rome Statute, will be able to defend its interests in the ICC, in particular by working in the Assembly of States participating in the court, proposing its candidate for the position of judge, and participating in the selection of judges and prosecutors of the court. Since November 2013, Ukraine has already recognized the jurisdiction of the ICC over international crimes committed on its territory, without restrictions based on citizenship. And the court acts according to the principle of complementarity. That is, if national courts are unable or unwilling to prosecute citizens for international crimes. Russia is expected to ramp up its online influence campaigns ahead of the upcoming US elections, according to a report by Meta Corporation. These efforts will likely focus on promoting Western politicians who oppose support for Ukraine. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, it has used social media to undermine Western backing of Kyiv. This includes amplifying the voices of politicians in countries like France and Canada who argue that money being sent to Ukraine would be better spent domestically. Ahead of the November US elections, where some Republican figures like J.D. Vance have questioned Washington's financial support for Ukraine, Meta believes that Russian agents will leverage these internal debates for political gain. The campaigns are expected to emphasize politics such as the allocation of Western resources to Ukraine rather than focusing on any specific political party. As Western tech companies, politicians, and civil society groups have become more adept at exposing these campaigns, Russian-linked groups have shifted tactics. Instead of creating controversial posts themselves, they now promote content created by local politicians and influencers. For example, during the Paris Olympics and far-right riots in the UK, Russian-affiliated accounts amplified voices that suggested Western democracy is failing. Meta has shut down 4 underground Russian influence operations targeting social media users in Europe, the US, and countries like Azerbaijan and Mali. These campaigns primarily focus on criticizing Ukraine and questioning why the West continues to fund the war. Additionally, there are less than 3 months until the US election. Meta dismantled a domestic influence operation targeting true conservatives in key swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. Though the origin of this campaign remains unclear, it borrowed heavily from known Russian tactics, including using AI-generated fake social media accounts to spread political disinformation. And for now, that concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated, comment, like, and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine, because it is your support that matters for us. Goodbye.